public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive.
Let me understand what you're saying. A ton of cocaine was smuggled into the United States of America by the Venezuelan National Guard?
Well,
in cooperation with the CIA?
That's exactly what appears to have happened.
The Contras were involved in drug trafficking, and that one or another agency of the U.S. government had information regarding the involvement, either while it was occurring or immediately thereafter. Webb wrote that some Contra supporters smuggled cocaine to America to raise money for their cause.
The CIA has been bringing drugs into this country.
As then CIA Director John Deutsch discovered, it's an accusation that rings true for many, especially for some in the African American community. And Webb's story has taken on a life of its own.
And Gary,
on the talk show circuit and the internet, some have even gone beyond Webb's charges to accuse the CIA of conspiring to target young African Americans.
Was the CIA willing to poison our cities and crack cocaine?
So when I would go into the war room where we were setting up all of our drug and gun interdiction task forces, determining what cities where we're going to hit, I would notice that most of the time was always appeared to be urban areas. That's when I asked the question, well, don't they sell drugs out Potomac and Springfield and places like that? Or maybe y'all think they don't. The statistics show they use more drugs out in those areas than anywhere. The special agent in charge, he says, you know, we go out there and start messing with those folks. They know judges, they know lawyers, they know politicians. You start locking their kids up, somebody's gonna jerk our chain. He said they're gonna call us on them. Before you know it, they're gonna shut us down, and there goes your overtime.
This one individual was thinking about doing NYPD. The first thing I told him is, definitely not. This job, racial profiles, will force you to do things that you don't want to do. We're supposed to be the best in the world. We're the best at making money, and we're the best at arresting and summoning everybody.
Ever any kind of National Academy of Science that 100 years ago decided that these drugs, these ones had to be illegal and those ones legal? And it's not as if this is in the Bible or in the Code of Hammurabi. I mean, nobody was making legal distinctions among many of these drugs back until the 20th century, essentially. So if you ask how and why this distinction got made, what you realize when you look at the history is it has almost nothing to do with the relative risks of these drugs, and almost everything to do with who used and who was perceived to use these drugs.
The prison industrial complex is a system situated at the intersection of government and private interests. It uses prisons as a solution to social, political, and economic problems. It includes human rights violations, the death penalty, slave labor, policing, courts, the media, political prisoners, and the elimination of dissent.
Nigga, did you just say what I was trying to say, but smarter?
Today, it's got to the stage where America is home to 5% of the world's population, but a quarter of the world's prisoners. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, in 2010, the two largest prison companies alone received nearly $3 billion in revenue, while their top executives each received annual compensation packages worth more than $3 million.
One thing that we're failing to realize with this whole black on black over-incarceration epidemic is partly fueled by miseducation and the lack of economic opportunity. It is the economic castration of black men that leads to the drug selling, that leads to the turf fighting, that leads to the death, and that leads to prison. We gotta understand that. So whenever there's gonna be a trial for any young man who's been accused of taking somebody else's life, I think that the school district of Philadelphia and the mayor of the city as the economic head should be in the trial as an accomplice to the crime. Because had it not been for the hand that they played in it, the crime would have never took place. Now, I'm not saying you're going to eliminate every drop of black crime by proper education and economic opportunity. I'm not saying that. But I am confident that you will cut it in half at least. Because most crime is economic, no matter how you look at it. They are economic crimes.
Alexander talks about how President Nixon issued the war on drugs and hyped up the publicity that this is the #1 issue in America.
We became much, much more punitive in how we approach drug sales, drug possession, and drug addiction.
And so that which should be a public health concern has now become a criminal justice concern because there is a policy decision, in my view, that certain people are disposable.
And specifically in the book, how police departments, they don't even get funding for anything else except for the war on drugs. So you got a lot of precincts who will expand their workforce around incarcerating people for the war on drugs.
Well, the point that Michelle makes in the book that's lost on a lot of people who are down for being tough on crime or the war on drugs or whatever is that these things are sold to them like this is a war on a thing or a foreign object or an enemy or entity, and they don't realize that these are wars on communities, wars on women, wars on children, and they code it in different words and different languages, but you know, it's very hard for people to see through the codes.